there folks, the Comics Kid 2099 here to discuss the Green Lantern the Animated Series episode Regime Changes. If you haven't seen this episode, go watch it while I briefly talk about it in a plot synopsis, then come back for the actual review. Spoilers ahoy! The crew of the Interceptor gets an SOS from Queen Iolande, and when they arrive, they found that her evil brother is now a Red Lantern, and he and the rest of the Red Lantern Corps plan to blow up the planet. Meanwhile, Appa exiles Ganthet from the Guardians for a variety of reasons, but basically Appa is a buttface. Sade secretly brings Ganthet back from exile so that he can activate a special prototype on the Interceptor that will supercharge a Green Lantern in emergencies. Don't know why he didn't think to do this earlier in any of the episodes where they could have used the help, but oh well. Ganthet somehow turns the Green Lantern battery blue, and it turns the Green Lanterns into Super Green Lanterns so that they can defeat the Reds and get the bomb thing off the planet. Cue credits. So while I really enjoyed this episode, I don't know if there's very much for me to say about it. It's a very action-heavy episode, which was a heck of a lot of fun to watch, but generally action scenes amount to me saying, yep, that was cool. I think the fight scene between the Reds and the Greens is maybe one of the best fights we've seen in this series, but still, I don't have much critical analysis for this kind of thing. Generally, I'm all about a character going through some kind of character arc, no matter how small, during the course of an episode, and I can't really say that any of our protagonists do that this time, but I didn't really mind. We did get a small moment of change from one of our very minor recurring characters, Sade, but as far as how Aya, Razor, and Kilowog go, they are all basically at the same place emotionally at the end as they were at the beginning. Again, this is a very action-heavy episode, so not a whole lot of time for big character moments. Speaking of Sade and the Guardians, though, let's talk about that for a sec. I do like that this episode reveals that yes, Atrocitus is telling the truth about the Guardians unleashing the Manhunters bazillions of years ago, and the Manhunters committing genocide. And like I said several episodes ago, the Guardians are shady as heck, so I wasn't too surprised to see that this was the case. I mean, yes, I had watched this series some time back, but I would not have been surprised if I hadn't seen this series before. I would still like to know if Atrocitus is bazillions of years old, and if he's not, how he knows about the Manhunters, but that's neither here nor there in this episode. But I really like that there's dissension in the ranks of the Guardians. It makes them feel like actual people, and not a whole bunch of robots who all speak in unison in a monotone voice, which is how I've always seen the Guardians in the comics and in some appearances outside of this series. I like that Appa has a legitimate reason for wanting to keep the Manhunters a secret from the rest of the universe. If they find out about this, then they may start thinking, what gives these clowns the right to police us when they unleashed that deadly threat on the universe bazillions of years ago? So it could cause universal panic. But also, I think there's a real possibility that Appa just likes holding the position of power that he has and doesn't want to lose that by admitting the error that he and the Guardians made. And I like that at least one Guardian wasn't a coward. I don't even remember seeing much of Sade in the series before now, but she's got my vote for President of the Universe in 2020. It is a tad weird that the Guardians are, as far as I know, a council where no one Guardian has more authority or power over any other. That's certainly how they're presented here, and yet when Appa accuses Ganthet of treachery, he apparently has the right to banish him without any of the other Guardians offering any input at all. Maybe there was some deliberation that we didn't get to see, but the way it's presented, it seems like Appa makes an accusation, says that Ganthet isn't even allowed to defend himself, and then exiles him. Appa is the kind of character you just love to hate. You know the series does a good job with him when I fantasize about jumping into the series just to punch him in the face and maybe pee in his cornflakes. As you probably know, I don't like the excessive use of maroon, lavender, and heliotrope lantern cores in the last 15 years or so in the comics, and then used in this series also. So the sudden appearance of the Blue Lantern as a Deus Ex Machina isn't great, and I do think the phrase Deus Ex Machina is maybe a little overused and perhaps not completely understood by everyone who throws it around these days, but it is Latin for God from a machine, and refers to when a plot would throw a magical fix at the last second from some kind of mechanical means. In this case, the Lantern battery suddenly turns blue and gives the Green Lanterns God powers so that they can defeat the Red Lanterns. Yes, earlier in the episode, Ganthet mentions his prototype that might help them, so it isn't like they only mentioned this possible fix in the last 3 minutes of the episode, but it is still a machine fixing the plot because they kind of wrote themselves into a corner. So while I enjoyed this episode a great deal, that is a problem and I won't apologize for that. I don't know jack about the Blue Lanterns in the comics, so I don't know if them being a conductor to make the Green Lanterns more powerful is a thing in the comics, but that seems really weird. Like, none of the other Lantern cores exist only to prop up another existing core, do they? What would happen if all of the Green Lanterns are killed and their power battery was destroyed? Do the Blue Lanterns still have hope powers, or are they obsolete? I can't be too mad about this development, though, because spoilers for later in the series, it means that we will be getting more of St. Walker, who I do remember liking from what little we saw of him, so that's cool. Overall, I did like this episode, flaws and all. I hope you guys did too, and if you did, I hope you also liked this review. And if you did, well, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be back next Saturday with another Green Lantern review, and I'll be back during the week with other videos. So until then, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.